Hello, Rockwood, Missouri community. Today we're going to get into the real reason your school has a levy resolution to help communicate and educate the community on the debt service transition plan. I will show you how to find the information, also to understand what the information means, much of which is hidden in plain sight. For transparency, of course, you will get to see what garbage that is firsthand. At the same time, not being transparent of the real motives or revenue they receive and from where. There are many schools across the country that have had or are going for bonds. This is not unusual. What is wanting to borrow to bonding capacity. That is what's unusual, which means borrowing as much as they are legally able to. In other cases, equally, many schools like yours, being one of them, is moving the allocation of the levy or property tax funds they receive into different accounts, which would be a permanent change that can have long-lasting consequences. So I'll be showing and explaining why this is happening and the desperation of the school systems to keep revenues that they will be losing shortly. My journey of understanding on bond issues or levy issues with the schools has been a difficult one. The schools are not forthcoming with the information needed, also getting the help needed from government sources to answer specific questions has its challenges as well. So a lot of the information is not easily sourced. So my pain is your gain. If you get anything out of this, you should know what questions to ask, also how to better source information, so you no longer have to be reliant on the school or government entity for all the information needed to be an informed voter, which is exactly what they don't want you to be. And you're about to find out why. School's in session. You may want to get a notepad out to reference different timestamps in the video. This will help you find the different information. Also, for those that want to be able to reference it in the future, you may want to consider downloading this video. And YouTube isn't a really big fan of free speech, especially when it comes to schools and taxes. So, this is your school website. And this would be that rsdmo.org/BOE, or if you just go to like Rockwood R-VI or Rockwood 6 School District, Missouri homepage, it should bring this up. So what you'll want to do is go to Board of Education. Here, some of what you may want to reference is what's going to be, you can reach it here, Board Docs, or you can reach it here. I like Board Docs, and I'll tell you why. It is more of an archive of all the board meetings several years. You see up here it says featured meetings, policies, library. What we're going to do is we're going to hit meetings up here. Look how far back it goes. Years. And so this is a wonderful reference material if you want to go back and see what they were talking about or dealing with. But we're going to do 2023. We want to do more recent ones. So as you see here, all the ones that were board meetings that were in 2023, they have listed right there. Let's see, we're going to go to, I have notes here, June 22nd. So that would be this one. and you're going to hit View Agenda, and that's going to get your what was all on the agenda. And so as you can see, everything from stuff that was contracted, discussed, and anything that was going on. The only thing that I couldn't find, I'm not saying it's not in here, but it did peruse around quite a bit, is I can't find the tax information. Usually it'll say tax documents, but let's see. We're looking for 804. Is it? Wow, it's way down there. Sorry, guys. 801, 804. Here's where you'll find the ESSER funds. And what is ESSER? It's Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Funds, ESSER 2 and ESSER 3. Your school has been getting a nice chunk of that money. And here's the allocation of 11.4 million between the two funds. And here's the breakdown. So COVID-19 supplies, it got $500,000, 1.3 million for technology, student and staff mental health programs, so I suppose counseling, they got 0.7 million, and heating and air, 0.8 million, and odds and ends, 0.2. So here's those. But allocations, 7.9 million for obligations through 2024. So this is ending in 2024, September of 2024, for all schools. These are federal funds that they have been receiving. And so this is what the schools are freaking out about right now. They went and put in infrastructure. They got used to all these funds, these federal funds. And so here you can find this in here and read through. We're not going to go over it, extensively, but I wanted to show you this because this is what the schools are freaking out about. I could not figure out, I'm going, why is all these schools going for, either bonds or levy transfers? And there's something going on. Well, this is part of that reason. Also, the gravy train, you got to think at this time is ending as far as, all the revenue that they've been receiving from property tax increases. That's starting to slow down. Some of these counties and schools are already feeling that. Rockwood is not probably one of them yet, but they know that this is probably the last year. And so they've got that ending. Also, when we get into another part, I'll show you something else that's going to start cutting into their budget. But this is one of them that I wanted to show you. Whoops. We're going to go back here, and then we're going to go back into meetings, because these are just the areas as far as the documents that I'm seeing and that we're going to be going through, so you'll be able to find them yourself. The other one is on August 17th, right here, this one. So then you'll go into View Agenda, and again, it's that 8.04. It's kind of interesting. Both of them are 8.04. So that's a hot spot, I guess, for finding at least what I'm usually looking for. But here's the presentations for those bond resolutions. This is a neat one to go through, that funding strategy and work session. Now, when they do these bonds, they'll have like a committee, and it's usually something like this that they actually present, but they actually put it in their board docs so anybody can view this. So the review of school finance concepts, school funding and fund balances, challenges to plan success. This one's a fun one to go through. I thought you guys might enjoy this too. Let's see, their historical tax rates, fund balances, fund strategies. When we get down in through here, there's some things that I'm going to point out. Operating funds balance and recap, revenues and transfers, expenditures. This doesn't tell you as well as some of the other stuff. So I'm not going to spend much time on that. But yes, your levy has been going down. So my guess is they do have some sort of contract from a previous bond proposal where they actually do have you in a contract, because look at this. This 68 cents, portion of that assessed valuation, per $100 assessed valuation on your home and car. And on your home, it is at 19%, per $100 assessed valuation of your home. And then on your car, it's 33.33% assessed valuation. So it's much higher on your vehicle. So all you renters out there, it affects you whether you know it or not. It's either built into your rent or you're paying on your car. So yes, it has went down. A lot of schools didn't. So like I said, I think you guys might be in some sort of contract. And that's something I have not come across. But let's look at this. This is your debt service history here. And you're wondering, you see all these, well, they didn't make a payment or whatever. Yeah, the payment schedules, I'll show you that later. Sometimes you don't make any payments certain years on certain bonds. So that's why you see blanks. But so we're going to take a look at this instead. Bond debt balance service history. And basically over here is how much you owed, in that time range of just bond debt. The stuff you vote in. You go in and say, oh, well, we need a new school, or we want this, we want that. And you go, okay. And so these are the amounts. You see it went down. Then you voted in some other bonds. And then it was up over 200 million. And then it's going down, 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 down. Well, that's going down. See, it's actually, I think, well, they say by 2024, because when you pay your taxes, they're going to make another big payment. And so that's the reason why it's showing under that $100,000 mark. Right now, it's like, I believe it's $119 million is what you owe. But by this time, it'll get it under that 100 million mark. But this is what they're talking about on wanting to move the levy. And this is dangerous business. And I'll get into that later, because you guys are paying down debt really fast. And I'll show you why and how that's happening. So this was spending in 2015 and 2017, for asphalt roofing. They are apparently already bought some new HVAC units and things like that, because you just look at the cost. That tells you.
and then spent, athletic fields, 11 million, and then again, 7 million. Yeah, and athletics cost schools a lot of money, by the way, and fees and everything else. People are unaware of that. It costs a lot of money to have all those sports programs. All right, the way forward to communicate and educate our community on debt service levy transition plan. Well, we're going to do that right now. I'm helping out Rockwood School District. You're welcome. So, and that's capital projects expenditures. That's another fund I will show you later in the presentation. The way forward long-term capital funding plan. See, this is what they're telling you, how much funds is going to get just shoved into the other account and is going to be taken away from paying off that bond money and just extending it out to, forever, where actually it could be paid off in a matter of within 5 years, literally. And I'll show you how and why that is. So, estimated debt service levy, because they're doing this in two chunks. So, the potential total capital funding, so they're just moving it, debt levy, estimated debt service levy transition. This will make more sense to you after I show you the DESI reports. Unfortunately, the 2023 report's not out for your school yet, which is a bummer, but we can make do with what we got for what I need to show you anyway. So this here is going to just move that little allocation that just doesn't look like much. It moves millions of dollars is what it does. And then it's just going to take longer for you to pay off your bond debt. Patron survey results. This is something that, did you get one of these? Or was it just the people that have children in school, just those parents? Because I think that's terrible that not everybody gets a survey. And a lot of them are very likely to vote. And they're saying, oh yeah, we strongly support it, somewhat support it, and then some said oppose it, strongly oppose it, and some of them don't know. But who took that? Who took that survey? Probably wasn't you. If you don't have, kids in the school district, you didn't even know it was happening. So this is the levy transfer. And we'll get into that. I probably actually should have showed you this after I showed you the other, so you can actually see what these accounts are. In fact, actually, that's what we're going to do. We're actually going to go into DESI, because this will make a lot more sense after I do that. I kind of did this maybe a little more backwards than I should have. Sorry about that. Okay, to get to DESI's website, as far as to look at the financials, you'll do apps.desi.mo.gov. Now, it says DESI application sign in. You don't have to sign in. That's for the school to sign in or whatever if they want to, I guess, add or change something. But what you're going to go to is the Annual Secretary of the Board Report, or ASBR. That brings up this page. You would have never thought to go look at annual secretary of the board report. Like I said, hiding in plain sight. Um, Up here, it defaults to Adair, and you can do it by code here if you know your school's code, which is this right over here, or you could do it by name. So we're going to do it by name, and you're going to see, you see that 2022, 2023 right here? Look how far back you can go back to. You can go back to 2000 and look at reports from, over 20 years ago for your school. So it's pretty nice. You can actually compile a history and a story, really. But we're going to do it by name. Then it puts it in alphabetical order. So we're going to go down to Rockwood. Right there. So see, there's your code, 096091. Okay, and we're going to hit ASBR report and see how it defaulted to 2022, 2021, 2022. They don't have the new report in yet. See if I can get that a little larger. Okay, now yours is actually a little more unusual because you actually have a teacher's fund that they actually put part of the levy towards. A lot of them, it says zero and they just move it over. But I'll show you also that your teachers get paid a lot better than most schools. So between this fund, the general, which is just your operations, this is for, the lights, the paper, all that stuff, heating, air, just basic operations, okay? And then you actually have a teacher's fund. And I understand why you actually have the teacher's fund, because you guys pay a lot of revenue into that teacher's fund.
It's pretty crazy. And local effort, which is unusual in itself.
Okay, so you have your operations, you have your teachers. Well, here's your debt service. This is at 68 cents, right? That you pay towards those bonds that you vote in. All right. Well, this is what they're gonna chew away at. And they want to move it like over here into the operations and your capital projects fund. That's where part of it will end up. You see, you got 4 cents going into it right now of that total 4.1252 levy of that's that $100 assessed value for every $100 assessed valuation of your home calculation. So that's the breakdown. This is your operations. This is, you actually have a teacher's fund. And like I said, usually these two are together. In most schools, you'll say 000. And then, but this number will be bigger. So if you were to take these two together, and that's what you'll see in a lot of schools, is where it'll be 0. In fact, I should almost show you a different school so you can actually see what I'm talking about. But if you were to add those two together, that's $3.40, which is a reasonable amount of money. That is definitely the base, the least amount a school can have, and this is state law, Missouri state law, is $2.75. So they're not doing too bad. And it's not like that's that's not a bad debt service levy either. But you guys pay a lot of money into the school, and I'll show you that too. So your total levy is 412. All right. And I'll show you those ESSER funds. You can actually see those in here too. Any funds, this is your local revenue broke down. This will be on page 2. It'll be just on the second page. You got your current taxes, delinquent taxes, financial institution, and then district trust fund, Proposition C, M&M surtax, city sales tax, but they don't have anything like that. But this is the local revenue, okay, for all of these. And there's your debt service of 31 million that you're paying. That, well, they collected that year anyway. I'm sure it was more last year. Okay, and then you got your county revenue, and then you've got your state. This is on page 3. So what I wanted to show you was the federal revenue right here. Now, you've got your ESSER 3 funds and ESSER 2 funds, and CARES, they're still getting that as well. So as you see, teachers. Now, those ESSER 2 is actually, which is kind of strange, because ESSER 2 they have in general fund, which is kind of weird. What they are is that economic relief fund. What that did was for extra teachers. It was for even classrooms, training equipment or whatever, because of the shutdown, well, all the kids got behind. And so federal money was given to these schools to get them back on track. Well, with anything, you get used to the money. Well, they did too. And they're getting even that year they got a couple $1,000,000 in that federal revenue. And this is what they're going to be losing here in September of next year. So yeah, I mean, National School Lunch Program, they got 10 million in, federal revenue. So this is a grand total between all of these different things. A total of 16 million from federal. The state, this is what I noticed was interesting. The fact that they got 40 million in revenue, or between everything they got in state was 45 million. Now we're going to go back to page 1 real quick. First page. And so you guys are actually paying into the teachers fund as well, which is actually kind of unusual. Usually local revenue doesn't pay into the teachers fund. If they do, it's usually not a whole lot. You guys pay a lot into the teachers fund in comparison. Usually state takes care of teachers, or the just salaries, not just for the teachers, but salaries in general. And then your local revenue pays for the infrastructure and making sure that they've got the funds to maintain the building and for the operations of the building, but not salaries. So that I'm like, wow. But I'll show you how much your teachers get paid here after a little bit. Okay, now if you want to see bonds, that's on page 13. I know it seems like there's a lot of pages here, but primarily you're going to be looking generally at the first page and second to last page. Now, this is where your bonds are. And this is what you had in 21, 22. You had 172 million, and then you borrowed. This was a refinance, though, I think. I'll have to refresh my memory. We'll be going there anyway. And then that's how much was repaid, and that's your ending balance. Look how much interest you guys pay, though. 7 million. Over 7 million. So unfortunately, generally you'll see these general obligations bonds split out. But I know which ones you guys have out. I was able to find that on one of those pages that we will be going over. But I wanted to get over here and touch on this stuff so hopefully you'll be able to understand it a little bit better. But here's another thing that I wanted to show you too, was you see this lease purchase. Okay, now they have lease purchase debt and $5.8 million. Well, they did in 21-22. I'm sure it's less now. I'm sure they probably paid something on that. And to find out exactly what they have left in the payments, that's something you could sunshine request that if you really wanted to know. But it looks like they bought buses, because if you go down here, you'll be able to, sometimes they tell you, just like they did here, and how long the term was. That was a 10-year loan in 2016, an 8-year loan in 2019. And they purchased buses with that. Okay, and so original principal balance at the beginning of the year, and that's how much they repaid, and there's the ending balance, for the one done in 2016 and then the one done in 2019. So you get to see how much they paid. I don't think there's anything else down here. But these usually split out by the years, and they just lump it together, and that's just the way it is. All right. Now, what we're going to do, I'm going to show you another page. I'm going to go into another private window, and we're going to go to Missouri Auditors. Yes. So, Missouri State Auditor's Office. That's what we want. You'll see Scott Fitzpatrick. What you want is reports. You just hover over that, and it'll bring up that menu, and you want bond registration. Now, when you get to this page, you want between what years. If you put in and you don't change this, then unless they did one that year, you're not going to have anything come up. So we'll go back to 2010 because that's the earliest one that they currently have. So between 2010 and 2023. Now, all you need to put in is Rockwood. And all of those bonds come up. Now, the only ones you currently have, you have one from 2010, which one that is, because they had split this out. One was a refinance, I know that, and then you had, I think this one was a new one. Yes. What's nice about these is, as you see, in 2010, This was a $55 million bond that the community authorized. Okay, and they split it out, and that's fairly common, especially with large amounts, because they're like, well, we don't need all the money right now. We need to get to a certain point in the project, and then we'll take the rest of it out, like when the structure is built, and then we'll take out the other portion of it to get all the equipment in. So that's not uncommon for them to do that with large bonds. Okay, and what's nice, they'll even tell you the purpose of it. You know, it said acquiring, constructing, renovating, repairing, improving, furnishing equipment of school sites, building, and related facilities in the district, including safety measures and infrastructure, maintenance of current facilities by continuing to fund major capital repairs and improvements, additional classrooms, renovations for instructional areas, technology infrastructure, and classroom technology. So it told you the purpose and
The date, and then over here, that's the interest rate. And this over here, this is their payments that they make and what years they will make those payments. Okay. Now, when it's callable, meaning that they can call it for earlier payoff. Say that they're getting a lot of extra revenue. Well, then they can call it for an early payoff. And so it says here, well, in 2021 and thereafter, it can be called for redemption and payment prior to maturity of February 1st, 2020. So if they've got enough revenue, well, that's built in the account, they can go ahead and pay it off early. So they have that option. And then there's your purchase price, the interest rate, and assessed valuation. And then this gives a total indebtedness. And then it even gives you your election results. So there's that. Okay, let's see. Let's see if we can find. There was one for a refinance. Was it that one? Yes, this was a refinance where they had actually refinanced one in around the same time period for the bond series 2006. So you'll be able to tell, especially when you don't see election results. If it's not applicable, well, then this was a refinance. So we got that. Let's look at that 2021. Yep, that was a refinance. That 15 million that we saw, this was a refinance. And that was series 2016. So you have now a bond in 2010 bond, a 2015 bond, a 2018 bond, a 2019 bond, and a 2021 bond. Okay. Something else I wanted to show you for this refinance. Look what they did. Okay, you got your 2024 payment, right? 4 million. 2025 payment, 4 million. Look how it skips. 2031. So it skips 6 years before they make the next payment. Now, I'm not saying that they haven't been good stewards of their bonds, but at the same time, and this is a low interest rate here, at least, well, not in the beginning, But down here, and that's kind of what you want. You want to be a little more top heavy, make your heavier payments in the beginning, and then hopefully graduate to a smaller interest rate and stuff like that. It's not that the structure is all bad, because this is actually a much better structure where you pay your payments heavier in the beginning and they get smaller. But what I think is just garbage is when you have all these years where you're not making any payments. How is that being a good steward? So there's positive and negatives. I will speak positive when there's a positive, but I'm also going to speak negative when there's a negative. Um, so here, 2031 is the earliest that they can pay that off. And especially, now that you saw how much money goes into these that bond account in revenue per year, like to the tune of 30 million. And then when you're looking at next year having under 100 million, think about that. That's less than 5 years. What they're doing is they're going to just try to extend that debt out as far as possible. That's how they're able to move that levy, because they kick that debt down the road hardcore. They don't have to make big payments. Let's look at some of these other ones here. Let's look at the payment schedule there. See? Look at these payments. And this is one of the ones that they have out. 2019. This one they pay on every year. But I mean, those aren't very big payments. And oh, this was a vote. This was one that you guys voted on. Let's see, when do they get to call that one? 2028 or 2027. Yeah, we're 2028. They can call it 2027 for payoff in 2028. So a lot of this that either is kicked down the road or it's not very much. So that's how they're able to shove that over, or wait to pay. Let's see, we got 2019, 21, 2018. Let's look at 2018. That was 62. Let's see what the schedule is on that. See, you had, voted in, I guess, a new school. And if you look at the payment dates on this, well, that was done in 2018. You made a payment in 2019, not very much, and it's 5%. Okay. And then the next payment's not even due till 2025. It's just crazy. And I think they split this. I thought I saw somewhere where they paid a portion of this just so this payment won't be so crazy. I want to say they paid like 10 million or something like that. I know I saw it somewhere. I'm not going to try to track it down on here, but they actually did pay this one kind of ahead. But I mean, all these have been the can has been kicked down the road. And I do mean hard on some of this. So there's some deferred debt here. Let's see, 2015. And I'm sure some of these are, they got a $10 million payment. Maybe that was a $10 million payment I saw. I know I saw something. But anyway, that's how they're able to do it. That's how they're able to get away with it. They'll pay down the debt quite a bit more, but then there's just deferred debt, basically. And well, that's going to elongate how long you have to pay on these bonds, where yes, they have been a good steward about paying them off, or and getting them paid down. I'm not going to put them under the bus for that because, they did do a good job. But the thing is not the reward that they want is to say, hey, look how good of a job that we did. Reward us by moving this levy and this being a permanent increase. That's basically what it is. If you actually have them pay off this debt, which they're going to need to do if you decide to vote no on this, then that 68 cents goes away. And guess what? Your taxes actually go down by 1/6, because it's 1/6 of your taxes towards the schools right now. Now that's whatever you pay to the school, which generally in your property taxes is 80 to 90%, depending on where you live, goes to the schools. It's broken out in your tax statement. So what you pay to school, what you pay to the city, what for fire, for this, that, or the other thing. So don't let them fool you. So now we can get to go back to this. Make this make more sense. Hopefully I'm making sense. Um, See how the debt service? Okay, let's go to here. Let's go back to that ASBR report. We're gonna try to make that a little larger. All right. This is your debt service. This is your general, your operations. Let's go back to that. Okay. This is your bond debt. This is that stuff you vote in for new construction or whatever. See how that shrinks? That's what it's wanting. They're wanting to do. They're wanting to take away from this, and then they're going to put it into capital. See how that gets larger? Show you what that is. That's this right here. So what they're wanting to do basically is take chunks, two of them, pieces and parts of this, and move it into here. So, well, why would they do that? Basically, this can help them do anything and everything they want without your approval, without your knowledge or consent, and it would be somewhat permanent. And what really sucks about this, guys, what they can do with this without you knowing, it basically, it takes away this contract you have. And this can get bounced back and forth, back and forth. It could even go into teachers' fund. Administration could go, I want a raise. And nobody'd be the wiser. You are responsible for this, and technically that should be the state's responsibility. But anyway, I digress. But this is where they can start moving and bouncing around, and they get to loosen their belt in a lot of ways. All the while, yours has to stay tight. You went and you voted in these taxes in good faith, saying, okay, you need something, we'll give this to you. so you can build a new school or, these other projects. And mind you, people don't understand that bonds are for a new school, for growth, for all these different things. They do not realize that this money is not for anything and everything. I mean, technically, they should save enough money. They can save money. They can save money and put it into this capital projects fund. People don't know that they can save money. And then also, you know, this lease purchase debt, they can take out loans and they can take them out in the millions and you not be the wiser. But guess what? This lease purchase debt, that's levied against the school. It's where bond debt is levied against your property. That's why they don't like to do lease purchase, because then this that's levied against the school. So not only can they save money in this capital projects, any overflow, if they can tighten their belt here and build up this account, they can do those roofs, they can do those parking lots, they can do a whole bunch of things, they can do the heating and air. And that's the thing that's just wild about some of this. There's been all these technology grants, there's been, heating and air grants, there's been, all these bailout funds. All this is drying up. And they have been getting fistfuls in the millions, and yet it's still not enough. So it's up to the people to say, hey, look, you need to tighten your belt too. But unless you know the information, unless you're able to see the information and know where to find the information, it's hard to make somebody beholden to something if you don't even know. But these are the secrets they don't want you to know. Yes, they can save money with the extra revenue. Oh, yeah, we need to get into revenue. Okay, let's do this. Whoops. Did I lose my page? No, I didn't. Good. This is another one. You see this local effort report? This tells you a ton too, and it's just one page. Super simple. Okay, let's open that up. This tells you your local effort right here. And it has your state utilities, all that. This is all your local effort. This is not state, this is not federal, this is local. And okay, so we got 199, almost 200 million. This is just local effort, folks. And then this is your local effort per average daily attendance. So when you see ADA, that's average daily attendance. Well, you got 10,800 students, for your average daily attendance. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. It's $10,800 for your average daily attendance, which is high. And I'm not sure how they're doing this because it's not making a whole lot of sense to me. But because usually your ADA, usually see that in around the 6,000 range as an average for Missouri. It is usually around $6,000 for per student head. This is what's spent per student head according to this in local tax effort. This does not include federal. This does not include state. This is just local. Like I said, local effort generally is in the $6,000 range. Now, this is average daily attendance. You got 18,434 on average show up to class. Okay, now this is 21, 22 again. I wish I had one that was sooner. So we got 21, 22. How about we go back to 2016, no, we'll go 2017, 2018. Let's go like 4 or 5 years. So I want you to see something. Okay, remember the other one was 199. Here's 177. So you're looking at over 20 million more in local effort in just a matter of from 27, 2018, in a matter of between 4 or 5 years. And look at your daily attendance, 19,664. And look at what your, remember it was 10,800? Yeah, before it used to be 9,000. And your student population was higher then than it is currently, or was in 21, 22. So you start looking at these numbers, okay, an extra 20 million, and there's less kids than what we had 4 or 5 years ago, and we're paying a lot more per student head. And if you think about that, you start breaking that down, you have about 500 less students than you did just, say, 4 or 5 years ago. Think about that in teachers. Well, given your average daily attendance, according to DESE, say or the student teacher ratio, I'm sorry, which is 16 to 1. Well, that's about 30 teachers. They shouldn't need any more. So if you start looking at these numbers in a different way, you're going, why are they needing more revenue? There's less students, so you shouldn't need as much money. You don't need as many teachers. You shouldn't need this, you know. Now, as far as the facilities, you understand that, well, the roof is gonna be the roof. It's gonna need repair or whatever. But again, they can do that with the funds they get. They don't need your funds. Like I said, they're getting millions and millions and millions more, and it's just not enough. They have inflation, but so do people. Okay, DeSe, Missouri. I'm going to show you another. If you do that, it'll come up right here. Home. We're going to go and look on here. Most people have probably seen this if they wanted to look on here. But this is the Missouri homepage. And if you hover over school data and you go over down to data dashboard, that's what you want. Now, see, it gives you this interactive map, which is really neat. They got a lot of really neat things, actually, in the DESE site to look at. So you go over the county, St. Louis County. Now you're gonna, well, sometimes it doesn't want to be friendly. And all the school districts in that county will, when you click on that, will come up. So we go to Rockwood. So they say it's 20,300, and then see here's it's saying $11,000 spent per pupil. I said between state, federal, and local,
That's usually around the 10, 11,000 mark. So I'm not sure if they just, because they're not getting as much state and federal funds in comparison, that's averaging out to the 11. I'm not sure if it's the teachers, the way that that's being split out, if that's messing with some of this. That part I'm really not sure. So can't take my word for it too much on that one. Um, but here's their proficiency scores, and they're kind of, they're not bad and they're not good. They're just kind of in the average. Now, go down to here. Students per classroom, it says 17 to 1. And then your average teacher's salary, 66,000. If I remember correctly, the average teacher's salary in Missouri is around $48,000. It's usually between the 45 to 48 is where you'll see a majority of them. Some of them are more, but yours is 66,200. And so they get on average about 20,000 more than the average teacher in Missouri. And now I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I think that teachers should be, paid a reasonable salary. They should be able to put a roof over their head. So that's a nice salary, and you know, uh, but I understand why they're getting that is because there's a lot of local effort that's going into that normally doesn't. Let's just put it that way. And then look at your average administration salary, 122,900, almost 123,000. Given the size of the school, that's not unusual. But if you look at, some of the other schools, that's going to run around $100,000. So, because you got to think, you got your superintendent, you got your principals, assistant principals. That's just it. That's the reason why the teacher's salary suffers, because you have a lot of higher administration, that, gets a chunk of that, then all the supporting people. So, yeah, I imagine their teacher retention is pretty good, making that kind of money. So they aren't gonna leave when they're making that kind of money. Not gonna go to another school. So, let's see. We're gonna go into that. And you gotta do PK. Now, the PK has increased. Statewide, there's a lot more students in PK, in recent years than has been in the past. So, yeah, 2017, 2018, that's when it started bumping up. But even yours has dipped, though, in recent years. But look at your enrollment, and this is what's kind of nice. You can actually go year by year, on your enrollment. But you see your enrollment was higher. You almost had 21,000 students. So according to this, 700. It depends on what graph. Your average daily attendance, well, that's went down yet another 500 compared to just enrollment in general. So if you wanted to look at that, well, that's about 1,000 students. So, okay, so I showed you that. You can go in that into preliminary enrollment. Now this actually is done by school district, another interactive map. These are kind of cool. I really like these. Okay, now we're going to go into Rockwood, right there.
check this out. This actually tells you by grade, and then you got your 3-year average. I don't know if you can see that, but you've got your 2022, 2023, your current, and then your previous enrollment, and then your difference from 3-year average. So PK, like I said, has went up. Enrollment in PK has went up in more recent years. But then look at your, like your kindergarten enrollment, and you can do the 1 year and then your 3-year average, and then you see. Now what I found kind of unusual about your school is actually most schools are what I call top heavy. They actually have a lot more students that are in your 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, but you have been losing even more students than the average school. And you're still losing them PK through 6 too, 137 there, you know, 137 students less PK through 6 after it already took a dump in your 7 through 12. Nearly 400 students in the last 3 years. And with a grand total of, in a 3-year average, you lost 516 students. 368 of them, I guess, was just from the previous year. So you are dropping in student population, but yet they want more money. What do they need more money for? I mean, that's what you got to ask yourself. And then the fact that they're, how many teachers do you need if you have less students? I mean, you tell me, because I don't have the answer to that. Okay, so we did DESI. So here's your, so apparently they're not going to really change, basically operations or teachers that much. So right here, it's a debt service and capital. So they're wanting to bump up the capital. So basically, like I said, that gives them a ton of latitude, guys, and that this can get into some funny business, and the chances are it'll be permanent. It'll be really tough to ever get that levy down again, and to ask for nearly a $4 levy. Basically, that's what they're saying. Hey, we want a $4 levy, just for operations, just so hey, if we needed a roof, we can just do that or this or that. And it's like, you guys get so much money. What do you? It's just crazy. Let's see, what was the other one? Okay, here is the actual, what you're going to see, on the ballot. Okay, it'll be it resolved by the Board of Education of Rockwood, St. Louis County, Missouri, as follows. The Board of Education of Rockwood, our 6th school district, St. Louis County, Missouri, the district, hereby finds it necessary to increase the district's operating tax levy. Okay, your Board of Education is navigated by people that don't really have the community's best interest, and they're just being navigated. If you're not bending their ear, somebody else is. Somebody that wants your tax money. So that's what happens. That's why we get ourselves into these things, because people don't go to these board meetings. You'd hear some pretty interesting things if you went. There was one school district where actually it was recorded, and somebody told me about it. Well, guess what? They had a bond. and they were working on a project, and they had basically asked for more bond money just in case because they thought there was a hurdle they were going to have to overcome. Well, come to find out when they got into it, okay, that hurdle wasn't there. And they said, oh, well, we saved a lot of money because we didn't have to do what we thought we had to do. And well, now you can use that money for other projects if you want. There was no mention of refunding that back to the taxpayer. You are not a consideration in this. You are not a thought. So anytime you allow them to do something, you don't think that it's always in good faith that they're going to do the right thing because they are being navigated, by other people that may not have your best interest. Okay, so election is hereby ordered on November 7th, 2023. Shall the Board of Education of Rockwood R-VI School District, St. Louis County, Missouri, for the purpose of funding improvements to the safety and security of students and staff. See, safety and security was already addressed in those ESSER funds, right? Updating technology devices and infrastructure, already in ESSER funds, guys. Federal funds, federal bailout funds, right? Maintenance of buildings and equipment and other capital improvements. Again, that's, you already pay for that. General operating expenses of district, you already pay for that in the millions and millions and have been paying a lot of extra millions to them. It's still not enough. And so authorized to increase the operating tax levy ceiling by 36 cents to an estimated 381. That's first round. That, so 36 cents is going to be taken away from this bond money that you approved for projects. Okay, and that's in 2024. And then the next year after that, in 2025, they want to take another 18 cents that goes towards that bond debt that you approved. See, it says that $100 of assessed valuation. Okay, so see, it's nearly $4. That is crazy. There's very few school districts that operate on that high of a levy. Your average levy for a school district is generally in the 325 range. Okay, so they can operate on 325 and still put money away for buses, improvements, maintenance, everything else. And especially considering how much more extra revenue they have been getting from you guys. They need to figure it out. Stuff like this really makes you mad. So this is basically saying vote yes or no. So it says, resulting in the total tax levy of the district to remain unchanged. Yeah, it's not going to change the amount you pay. So what happens down the road if they need a new school? They're going to ask for a tax increase. They need something major. Say, oh, well, and of course, it's 10, 20 years down the road. Either you've moved or whatever, and nobody's the wiser. And they think, oh, yeah, poor children. If you're really thinking about the children, folks, you might want to think about how much tax servitude you're going to put your children in. Because that's where this goes, okay? They will be paying this tax. If it's for your children, do you want them to have the American dream or not? That's something you need to ask yourself. And it's a real question. Because if we continue to let our emotions be short-sighted and say, oh, yeah, the schools need more money, and not question it, not investigate it, and not step back and go, well, what are the consequences down the road? Is my children going to have to pay for this? What you do today does affect your children tomorrow. And debt servitude in the form of taxes, is definitely one of those things that you do have to take a really hard look at. So yeah, look at all these ESSER funds. Millions. This is what they're trying to continue. They got it from the federal government. They got used to it, and they don't want to let it go. So it's like, oh, well, the federal government's not going to give it to us anymore. I guess maybe we see if the people will give it to us. You know, the, and the state is holding them accountable, and they got $6 billion more revenue from the people, in taxes. When we go into inflation, the people suffer for it, and all these entities bank money on it. So we have to be the ones to be the bad guys too when it comes to us and go, you need to be tightening your belt. So indoor air quality and facility improvements, that again, HVAC, like a lot of this stuff was addressed and they had already addressed it. A lot of times they have these funds and they're getting them from somewhere else, but they put it in there to put the fluff in. To go, oh, well, these kids won't have this or we won't be able to afford this. Well, they're already getting those funds. They're getting them from somewhere else. Math and reading, license and training, all this stuff, that's in those ESSER funds. The different things that they're asking for, a lot of that is in the ESSER funds. They're just wanting to continue that funding indefinitely. And that's not fair to the people. So, funding strategies. But that's where you find the information, and maybe I'll get the links below. I'm going to check my notes real quick and see if there's anything that I didn't cover. And maybe I'll do an attachment video if there's something that I forgot, which wouldn't surprise me. But like I said, just between 2018 2019, I did find some notes. To 21-22. So just in a matter of 4 years, they got an extra $16 million. This is just local revenue, guys. And then an extra per student head, they had an extra $1,000 per head spent on a student in 4 years. And then, I'm sorry, 1,400 per student in local effort per head. And then with about 1,000 students less that are showing up to school. So again, what are they needing all this money for? All right, folks. I hope this helps. And good luck.